That was close, bro. That was very close. It was more close to my liking. However, I must say, as an Arsenal fan, I gotta applaud Manchester United here. I gotta applaud Amram because credit where credit is due, right? They didn't play the best football. They didn't have the best results. They finished 15th last season. They lost the Europa League final. But I think this game really showed, and the preseason really showed, that there have been some significant improvements by Amram and the team and what the new signings have done. What happens when you sign Premier League proven players and how much of an impact that has on a team is quite significant. And I got to give my flowers to a couple of players here. I got to give my flowers to the opposition because I feel like Manchester United deserves something from that game. Now, I'll talk about Arsenal a little bit later on, but in terms of Manchester United's performance, you can see the formation, you can see the little bit of a tactical shift, and you can see the impact from the new signings and what sort of impact that's made. And it's been brilliant to watch, to be honest. Not brilliant to watch, but in terms of from a Manchester United perspective, I think they come away with a little bit sad that they didn't get anything out of this game. However, it's a lot of positives to look through. They can see a performance on the pitch and truly believe that they could do something this season. They could go ahead in a cup run. They could go ahead and finish in European spots. I think that's really doable considering the fact that they only got to play one game a week. So that is also a very key thing over here. So just focusing on the Premier League, focusing on domestic cups, they could play around a lot more. They don't have any Champions League football to look forward to. So this sort of season could really be it for Manchester United, where they can sort of solidify and get some stability and have a stylistic, have a style of play with Ruben Amorim, and he can really fix his image that a lot of people were sort of doubting him last season. He has that opportunity to do that, and in the first game of the season against Arsenal, which is not an easy game, he's really shown that. In terms of the back line, I think the back line was really, really good for Manchester United, apart from, the set pieces, which is, a very obvious, glaring mistakes that have been made at the back. However, obviously the goalkeeping situation has to be fixed. Bayanda is not good enough. Onana, I don't think is good enough. However, Onana has to be the best goalkeeper for Manchester United at the moment. I think if they go out and get a goalkeeper and probably a centre midfield, I think this team goes to the next level. I think they, improve significantly. But when I talk about the three at the back of De Ligt, Euro, and Shaw, De Ligt absolutely locked up Gyökeres. And we'll talk about Gyökeres a little bit later, but De Ligt had a brilliant game, apart from a few battles that Gyökeres won over him in terms of, strength. Lenny Euro, brilliant, an absolutely brilliant youngster. Really excited to see him. I think it's going to be a breakout season for him. He did really, really well, especially against the likes of Martinelli, against the likes of Odegaard. I think he defended extremely well, didn't put a foot wrong. His passes were brilliant. I think he really commanded the ball. I think his partnership with De Ligt is absolutely brilliant as well at the back. So you can see a little bit of stability forming. Luke Shaw was a bit of a shocker in terms of the starting lineup. However, I think he held up his own. I think he really did lock up Bukayo Saka, who had a very poor game, and I think he did really well in terms of following Saka around, locking him up, being very close to him, closing the space and not letting Saka sort of cut in on his left and sort of create something. And I think Shaw was a lot more successful in that. So I think kudos to Shaw, getting a lot of criticism as to he's not good enough to play at the top level anymore due to the injuries, due to his fitness. But he's really shown that he can sort of pull in and do a job basically. Patrick Dogu is one of the most exciting fullbacks that I'm looking forward to watch this season. I think Patrick Dogu had a great game. I think first half he did really, really well, bombing forward, trying to create chances, and obviously, coming back in transition as well and helping out defensively. He did a brilliant job of that. I think second half he faded out because he was obviously tired. It's the first game of the season. So Patrick Dogu is to look forward to. Bruno Fernandes, Casemiro did the job. Wasn't sort of extraordinary. However, they did all right. I think Dalot did okay as well. But I think and Mason Mount too. I think Mason Mount's partnership with Dogu was, quite something, and it could develop into a lot more of a significant partnership when it comes to later on in the season as the season progresses. But what I do want to point out is the two players for Manchester United, Mbeumo and Cunha, especially Cunha, who played really, really well, had a lot of passion, had a lot of heart, had a lot of intensity, a lot of physicality against the likes of Saliba and Gabriel. There was particularly a run that he made, which he ran through the entire defense when he picked up the ball very deep into his own half and just went on a massive tangent of a run. run and almost scored. Saliba did a brilliant job of closing him down, but that was after he got past Gabriel, Zubimendi, Declan Rice. It was quite brilliant of a run. And Buemo finding a lot of space on the right hand side. I think he did really well. I think he could do a lot more, but I think he wasn't 100% match fit. I think 100% match fit, and Buemo would have been, could have gotten a goal or two. And obviously, I forgot to mention Patrick Dogu hitting the post too. They didn't clear any clear-cut chances. However, you could tell that they were trying to. As you can see, like a formation and the tactical shift, and you can see what the team is trying to do. I think as a Manchester United fan, not me, but Manchester United fans in general, cannot be mad at that. And I think Cunha and Buemo and Mount, they're not going to come across, William Saliba and Gabriel sort of defenders every single week. They're going to come against, a lot more less ability, less technical defenders, and they could sort of create a lot of havoc. I think it's going to be exciting to watch these guys play, to be honest. I think Manchester United, they're going to be okay moving forward, but I want to move on to Arsenal, which is my team, which I think it has to be an abysmal performance. But also, I don't want to blow this out of proportion, because at the end of the day, we've got 3 points away from home, first game of the season at Old Trafford. So you put all of that, it's truly a champion's performance. It's truly a performance that a good team does. You don't have to perform the best, but the most important thing is that we got a point. We got all 3 points. If we lost here, or we conceded towards the end, then I would have been very pissed off, because the performance is nowhere good enough. I don't think it's good enough. Apart from the back line, apart from Calafiori, White, Gabriel Saliba, I think they had a really good game, really brilliant game, defensively solid. I think Calafiori did really well against Mbuemo, considering the fact he found so much space on the right-hand side. And I think, Ben White did, really well against, Patrick Dogu and Mason Mount. Gabriel and Saliba, really good anyway, like in terms of a centre-back partnership. Zubimendi, Odegaard, and Declan Rice. I think Declan Rice had his worst game. I think Odegaard was the better out of the three. And when I say better, I use that term very loosely, because it still wasn't as good. I don't think it's good enough from Odegaard still, but I think he did relatively better. He was a lot more brave moving forward. He had a shot or two, and then he was like sort of trying to create something, which I'm never going to kill. We're never going to doubt that. I think the front line has been significantly underwhelming. Gyökeres, I think obviously there's going to be a lot of compilation about Gyökeres not doing well, and he's this and that and 007 memes, but there was barely any service to Gyökeres. There's barely any service. He's not a Thierry Henry. He's not a Harry Kane where he's going to drop and grab the ball and move forward. He's going to be a poacher. He's going to be in and around the box. He's a proper out and out number 9. He's not going to do any of this thing where he's going to drop in and try and distribute it out wide and then moving forward. But yeah, I'm not too mad at Gyökeres, because we did not give him any service whatsoever. Bukayo Saka, extremely quiet. Really disappointed in him to not step up. But it's okay. But I want to talk about Martinelli, because Martinelli, how many chances are we going to give this guy, bro? Like, honestly, I think he's not good enough for Arsenal. I think 2022-23 season was his peak, and I don't think he's ever going to reach that ever, because I don't think we support him really well on the left-hand side, and also individual ability, he doesn't really create much. So overall, very underwhelming performance by Arsenal. Really significant improvements by Manchester United. I think if we continue playing the way we're playing, we're going to go nowhere near the title. But I think we can let this one go, since it was away from home, first game of the season, a tough fixture at Old Trafford, coming away with the 3 points, and can't be upset. Let me know in the comments below what you guys think, and I'll see you guys in the next